Okay. All right. Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. I know today is a beautiful day here in Western North Carolina. We're going to be around 70 and sunny. Main reason I moved there is nice weather and lots of horse stuff. Hope you're all doing okay in your weather. Those of you that are in Texas, hopefully everything's going okay. Crazy stuff. Daryl, nice to see you. All right, so let's go ahead and get started then with the analysis. I'd like to start out first by kind of talking bigger picture. Okay, and then I'll always look at some requests, and I do want to talk about, as I mentioned last week, a little bit about divergence. Okay. So I got the Dow up here, the YM. And when we talked last week, right, basically I was 50-50 whether we're going to be lower or higher. I wasn't getting clear direction, right? We know from a seasonal perspective, we should start heading lower here until mid-March, right? We knew that. That's clear from a seasonal perspective. We knew that at the time, we're waiting on triggers, and the Laguerre hasn't triggered yet, short. We did have a red Hackenacci here, but not very powerful, right? More of an indecision candle. So from the Dow perspective, as we hit new highs today, you know, nothing surprises me. The one thing that has always been to the upside, retailers have continued to short the Dow. Okay, so one thing that's very interesting, this does not happen very often, is retailers are significantly short the Dow, which is again a contrarian indicator. But on the S&P, traders are about 50-50 right now. Okay, so we're seeing about a 20% change between the Dow and the S&P. And as you see, so we hit a new high in Dow right now, right? Let's take a look at the S&P. The S&P triggered earlier on the ES, could have certainly made some money on that with that wick, right? But now it might be heading back up. You've got the Laguerre at this point turning back up. And if today's closes the way it is, we'll have our first green Hackenacci candle yellow dot, okay? So, you know, as I mentioned last week, I wouldn't be surprised if it came down to the bottom Bollinger Band, it wicked to it. Let's take a look at the Nasdaq though, right? So the Nasdaq had a nice trigger short with a huge wick yesterday, right? But here's my dilemma, okay? So right now we have a red Hackenacci candle. Okay, yesterday's was red. You know, we had some pretty good volatility, some good movement, right? So the Nasdaq, it would be my favorite trade coming up because there's more room to the high, right? If you look at the other three, there's not as much room to that high, but it's definitely been weaker. But it's been respecting this this is basically a 50 period moving average that I put here for you. It's been respecting that though, okay? So if in the next day or so we start getting back up on the Nasdaq with a green Hackenacci, okay, we could hit new highs. But I always have in the back of my mind this mid-February to mid-March seasonal low, okay? And when that happens, you know, I'm very conservative. So I've had one trade this week new on the stocks that I did publicly, right? And it was a long play, you know, good seasonal movement and so forth. But when I'm not sure about something, I just kind of wait. Okay, I just kind of wait. And, you know, could this be a 1 or 2 day retracement for a bigger move down, right? That's what I would think, except for the fact when you look at the Dow, as I just mentioned, the Dow's hitting new highs, but more than that, it's, you know, very interesting. Hitting new highs, green Hackenacci, potential trigger here, short on the Laguerre though, right? And then the ES, again, just to show you one more time, we already have that trigger. It's starting to point back up on the Laguerre, but it's more of an indecision again, okay? And ADX is red. So I don't know. Again, if I had to pick a direction right now, What do? Do you go with the overall trend, which is a massive uptrend on all of these? Do you go with the seasonal that typically the next 2 to 3 to 4 weeks is lower? What do? Or do you sit on your hands a little bit? Okay. That's kind of where I'm at right now in the indexes. Okay. Certainly the Nasdaq is the weakest. That's not negotiable. But there's also some support right at this 50 period. Okay. So, so it's hard to say. We could have another test of the highs and then another larger pullback, or it might head up a couple of days and then pull back large, head back down lower. I would just be careful. I would just be careful. I wouldn't stack too many trades in one direction with risk, because I think we're not seeing any advantage right now between seasonality, sentiment, charts. Dow is positive, Nasdaq's negative. It's very hard to trade that. Okay, it's very hard to trade that. So that's the biggest takeaway I really wanted to give you today. Good luck, everyone. Bye. No, we'll still talk about some more stuff, but really, I mean, there's nothing wrong with sitting on your hands as well, folks. That's part of trading. Okay, it's part of trading, and you can hedge. You can do some long plays. You can do some short plays, as well. But the bottom line is right now, I don't think anybody really has a clue where we're headed over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. All right, so let's bring up some other ones now. So we'll bring up the dollar index. Right. So we had the nice retracement. Now it's rolling back over. Big picture on the dollar index, right? Left to right. We do prefer the short trades. We also have the massive downtrend, right? We have the massive downtrend. So, I think that is something, the trend can be our friend. I'll show you an example earlier. Knowing that it was more aggressive on something, I took it, but it was against the trend. Okay. Hold on one second. I'm looking for my chat icon. Bear with me. Well, there it is. I'll make sure I'm not missing any chats. Okay. So again, how do you re-enter something like this, right? When the Laguerre is already extended to the downside, you can go in on the red dots here, for your new short. When it went from green to yellow to red, right? That's a potential new entry with the, the target, these lows. Okay. Again, I didn't take this dollar trade, but that if I did, that's how I would follow the rules. Okay. All right. So I tried to do a long play this week on crude. I'm sorry, a short. I wish I did a long play on crude. I tried to do a short play this week on crude. And let me show you my thought process here. So at the time we had a combo short here, right? Which means you had a you had a Laguerre, a stochastic, and then a Hackenacci red candle. Now, was I expecting this to make a big reversal all the way down to 36? No, but I was expecting this to have 2 or 3 or 4 down days to make some money off of that. Okay. Again, and I mentioned this in my Sunday video, there's more risk on this trade for one, right? Because we're in this massive uptrend. I don't do those type of trades against it very often, but I also didn't mind the risk above the high. Okay. And then I actually got out a little bit early before the end of that day, just because when I looked at the way crude moves, when it gets going, it kind of gets going. But regardless, I was okay with my risk. Seasonality, we typically bottom right around mid-March, but we haven't been following that pattern. It's been much stronger, right? So that was a riskier trade that I went in, a quarter of my normal position. Okay, I can do that. I realize that it's a riskier trade, but I really thought we would get a couple more down days to hit some profit targets. That never happened. Okay, so again, the reason I'm bringing this up is to show you that what's important in this particular instance, you understand the trade. You understand that you put your stop above the high, you're getting triggers, it's following a potential seasonal, but it has not been following its pattern. So again, I like to go in much smaller size personally. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, then no major damage. But I just want to make sure people understand you're fighting this trend. Okay, just like the dollar index. If you would have taken this long play back here in January, you probably would have made your money, okay? But you're going against this major trend. I definitely prefer the downside following that trend, okay? So when you can get seasonality and sentiment following that overall trend, those are by far my favorite trades and my largest trades, okay? All right, so let's just kind of go down the list here. Let's look at gold. So again, gold has been, pretty consolidated, not doing a whole lot on this point. I'm not really looking to trade gold right at this point in time, unless I'm looking to buy for a longer term hold. I think now is actually a pretty good buy point. If you're looking to hold it, I think it could do really well. Okay. I would wait at this point for that Laguerre to head back up to do that though. But again, overall, this is a messy looking chart, right? All right, so Apple. I had a question on Apple. Is it time to buy Apple? Well, again, what I'm looking for, if I'm going to enter on Apple, okay, it's going to be when I get a Laguerre trending up with a green Hackenacci. Okay, so it's that simple for me. This is going to be a nice discount, right? So I know some of you are going more aggressive to try to get the cheaper prices. And, the problem is, how do we know Apple's not going to go to 100, right? Or 110 or 95 before it stops this downward movement? They can fall faster than they usually go up, folks. Okay, so that's why I'm waiting for my rules, because at least then if I get in, let's say on March 4th is when we get triggers again, and it doesn't work out, at least I follow rules that are high probability rules that I've been doing for a long time. Okay, I don't like to just say, okay, this is a wick, so I'm going to go in the next day. Right now Hackenacci is still saying that it's not going to head higher yet. Okay, and the Laguerre hasn't given us that trigger to the upside. So I'm waiting on Apple. Facebook's going to look very, very similar. Okay, so just kind of show you that. Just keep that in front of everybody. All right, so now the VIX. Okay, I actually did a VIX in the futures market trade. Okay, I exited today, small loss, but here's what happened. So I got in, and my profit target was 28. Okay, so it went up here to 27. What was it? The high 27.55. Okay. If I would have been sitting around my computer up here, when you get that close to a profit target, okay, I like to at least eliminate my risk to break even. I didn't. I wasn't around. We've had beautiful weather here in North Carolina, so I've been out. But anyway, so this is an example where I turned a nice winner into a small loser just because I didn't manage it, right? I mean, I had my stop loss and profit targets in there. I don't mean I didn't manage it by not having targets, but especially with something like the VIX that can be so volatile. Okay, if I would have been around, this would have been a trade that I would have managed a little bit faster. Okay, a little bit faster. Now, does that mean it can't turn around? Absolutely, it can skyrocket back up to 35 here, but then I'll just get back in. Okay, there's no reason to hang on to that. Okay. All right, the euro. So very interesting, right? You can see here on the euro, uptrend retracement, right? Then we had a new trigger here. It's just kind of been going sideways. We have the ADX turning red today. So again, what I really want to show you, no matter if this was Euro US dollar, if this was Apple, if this was Facebook, if this was Ford Motor Company, when you look at the forecast, okay, this green is a 10-year forecast. When you don't see a big advantage of what it's been doing the last 10 years, I should probably just go to something else that's going to give me some advantage. Okay. Make sense? Yeah, let me bring up the ADX again. So in this one, what is the red versus green? So again, I just made this very simple because I like to see the trends, and I find it easier than the ADX that Thinkorswim gives you. Okay, just my own personal preference. So I just did some color coding. So if I go to my indicators here on the ADX, I go to my settings. Okay, If it's less than 15, the ADX, it's red. And I have a label here, so it shows you what the current one is, okay? If it's between 15 and 23, I have it yellow, and that's okay. And green is greater than 23, okay? So during this time frame from 12/7 to 1/11, okay, it was greater than 23, okay? Now, again, I told people, especially in my mentoring, if it's red, it doesn't mean I won't take a trade, because remember, the ADX doesn't pick direction. It just says, basically, if you're red, there's a high likelihood you could consolidate, okay? So you might get into a trade and you might consolidate, kind of like what this one's been doing, okay? But if I really like to trade and it's a little bit longer term option play, I'll still take it at times. I may go smaller size, but what I really love to see is it in a trending environment, right? I love to see green and yellow, okay? Makes sense? Okay, so let's look at Bitcoin. So what are your thoughts on Bitcoin here, folks? Just curious. Everybody ready to go mortgage the house? Yeah, so, Bitcoin has been on that massive run, right? And then we had the January pullback that typically always happens. And now, like any market, when it's aggressively going, okay, it's got to pull back at some point, right? Is this now? Well, now it's certainly showing. I agree. I'm not shorting this right now, folks. Okay, I'm not trading the futures Bitcoin anyway. I'm just showing this as an example. I've got some, other stocks in that I prefer. But yeah, exactly, like Riot. But what this is showing you is, hey, go ahead and let it pull back at this point, and then I'll look to get my long play, right? And that's what it is. So again, I have a rule. When am I going to go long on something like this, right? Once either the Laguerre comes back into the green like it did back here and comes back up, okay, that was another beautiful entry right here. Okay, we also have the green Hackenacci. Or let's say 2 or 3 days from now or tomorrow, the Laguerre starts curving back up, and then you get a green, it'd be a yellow dot first, but then a green Hackenacci. That could be my other entry, okay? That way you can catch it on both ways. The best trades is when the Laguerre goes all the way into the green and then out, and you have the green Hackenacci, Laguerre trigger. It doesn't get any better than that, okay? I mean, this move is a beautiful move from following the trend, waiting in the retracement, when to enter back in the direction of the trend, okay? That's just a beautiful trade. Those are the ones that if they don't work out, I can easily sleep at night and not kick myself because I followed a high probability setup, okay? Yeah, Bitcoin can be risky. So, but let me just show you a few things. I know I've done this before, but I won't spend a lot of time. But, you can look at certain stocks. Lately, OR has not been really following it, so I would ignore that. But let's see. So obviously everyone knows about Riot probably, right? This has been following Bitcoin, right? It's the blockchain. So, if you'd rather get into it, buying Riot, right, it's going to be much cheaper, okay? Now, again, I don't believe they have options. Oh, yeah, they do. That's right. They do have options, right? So you can trade Riot, okay, instead of the futures or something much more manageable, okay? You can make some really good money on that, okay? If you're just looking at for an ETF to hold, okay, because it's grayscale Bitcoin doesn't have options. But let's say this dips to 35, okay? And you're like, okay, I want to buy some Bitcoin on the, in the GBTC ETF Bitcoin and hold it for a while, okay? This would be a good opportunity for you. Lots of volume on it and so forth. So, you can go into the crypto world and get your wallets and do all of that, which I've done in the past. Now with all these other options, I kind of prefer these other options. Litecoin, you could buy some Litecoin if you want to hold on to that. A lot of these cryptos are going to do amazing things over the next few years, right? So, yeah, Block. Yeah, I think I have. Let me just see here. Well, I don't have that one on there. Let's see here. Shiv has a good one. Yeah. So block should have made a good amount on this particular trade. Probably right here was the entry roughly. Okay. So there's some really good ways to trade it. Absolutely. And you're going to take advantage of those fast moves. So again, what I'm personally hoping, because I don't have any active positions on Bitcoin stuff, come on down, right? Because then when we get that new move, it could probably hit new highs and make another 250% return like Shiv did. Okay, fantastic, fantastic. Let me take a look here. Mara. Interesting. See, look at that. The reason I hold these webinars so I learn from you all. I'm going to put that on my list to watch. Let's see, does that have options? Yeah, it does. Pretty decent, not bad volume. Okay. Thank you, Mike. So there's ways around it, okay? The ways around it. And you can trade those type of moves. So, when you go and you look at a chart on Bitcoin, you're like, oh man, it's too volatile, I can't do anything with it. There's ways to trade it that your risk, right? I mean, Bitcoin literally, first of all, the margin to trade in the futures market of Bitcoin, I would love to know somebody that does that, first of all. I just like to talk to them. But look at that, $149,000 to trade one contract in the futures market of Bitcoin, okay? I mean, I've never seen that. I've never ever seen that in my trading career, okay? All right, so let's take a look here though. So let me go back to platinum. Okay, so this is a trade here where, again, just like when I was showing you the crude oil, okay, I've got a lot of things going for me. Okay, I've got a nice seasonal short. I got a Laguerre trigger and a red dot. Okay, so right now I'm just slightly down in this trade. Okay, I just got in yesterday. But what do I have going against me? Right, I have the overall trend going against me. So I went in a quarter of my normal size. But my thought, again, just like it was with crude, is I should at least come down and touch this 20 period average, right, which is the middle Bollinger Band. So if that happens, I already made money. And if it then continues, I can make more money, okay? So again, my stop is right above this wick, not this big one, okay? But I realized going into it, what do I have going against me? I have the trend going against me, okay? And as long as I know that and I'm good with that, okay, I'm going to take these trades in most cases, okay? I do think we're going to get that pullback on platinum because we normally do, as you can see right here, okay? All right, so Tesla, come on down, Tesla. I want to be able to afford you for some leaps, right? For some leaps. So anyway, we're getting some indecision here. But in all honesty, we could be getting a good long play coming up, right? I hope this goes down further and consolidates. Not too much though, because I know a lot of you own Tesla for the long haul. But look at this move coming, right? So as it's coming down, which this may be the bottom. We don't know yet until we see. Okay, we could look at a nice long play coming up on Tesla. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Nvidia. So again, we've got earnings coming up here on 2/24 today after the market. Okay, what am I hoping for? Because I'm not in this trade, I want it to kind of consolidate or go down a little bit on earnings and then give us that trigger here in the near future long. Okay, again, ways to get discounts on some of these prices. Okay. One thing that I'm hanging on to right now by plan right from the beginning, Domino's, right? Domino's is going down. We've been in this downtrend. We now have earnings coming up tomorrow morning before the market, okay? What am I betting on here? Again, I'm betting on a gap up on earnings. If it doesn't happen, I'll probably exit the trade. I went in a small quarter of my trade because again, it hadn't been following its seasonal pattern, right? You see this white line here. it should have been going higher. Price has been going lower. So there's more risk. Okay. But because of that, if earnings gaps down or doesn't do anything, I'll probably close the trade because I do want to look to re-enter dominoes. But I don't necessarily need to add into the position at this point just because I'm not going to fight that trend. There's so many better opportunities. Okay. Interesting enough, a competitor, PZZA, right, has been in this nice uptrend. So dominoes could surprisingly have some good earnings to make the stock climb tomorrow. We don't know. We won't know until the morning. Okay. All right. Again, I want to go over some divergence. Here, we might as well bring up PZZA. Let me talk about divergence a little bit. So this is a case where you see this orange line. Okay, I had a program that when you have a new high in price, okay, and high doesn't necessarily mean, well, it doesn't mean all-time high. It means over the X number of days. Okay, or this is a daily chart, or if you have a 1-minute chart, number of bars. Okay, so based off of the criteria here on this daily, okay, this is actually a perfect, it can't get much better on this. So this is a good example though. We had divergence here, which means we hit a new high, recent high, yet we didn't get a new high in RSI, just a traditional behind the scenes RSI. Okay, so once that arrow paints and the next bar opens up, this will stay here. It will never go away. Okay. It can beforehand, it can blink and go away if the changes in the RSI and the price and all that. But once it paints and the next bar opens, it's there forever. Okay. And you see this move down. Again, divergence doesn't mean you're going to have a huge trend and change all the time. It's going to go from 111 to 10 bucks. Okay. What divergence is saying is you have a new high in price, but your momentum indicator, in this case, the RSI, there's not a new high. And so, do some reading on your divergence if you're new to this. But basically what that means is we're expecting at some point in time in the near future, price to go in the opposite direction, short term at least. Okay. And in this case, it did beautifully for us. Okay. So that was a good example to bring up. But it's not going to always do it, immediately. It may take a few bars and so forth. So let me show you some examples. Okay. I'm going to bring up the QQQ. And I'm going to bring up because again, you can do any time frame you want on divergence. So let me bring up the 4-hour. Okay. So we see here on the 4-hour chart on the Qs, there's nothing better than to have a new recent high and divergence. Okay. That is the best of the best. Okay. Usually then you're going to have a retracement because what happens at new highs, folks, or new recent highs anyway? You get profit taken, you get stop losses, so you get movement. Okay. So, it doesn't get much better on that 4-hour chart on the Qs, right? Okay. And that's what the divergence. And again, you'll see the yellow line, it'll last as long as when the initial setup started. So this is a 4-hour chart. So right here on like the 20th of January, it was diverging. So what it'll show is during this movement, it'll show up as a label, potential divergence. Okay. It won't paint and stay with that arrow right here until the actual bar closes, meeting that criteria. So when is the enter point, folks? Okay, I don't go in just at the next bar. What I like to do is then wait for a Laguerre trigger or a red dot, okay? Because you're not always going to have a Laguerre trigger, perfect trigger within that, but you may have a red Hackenacci, okay? And that's a good entry, okay? So that's just one example, on multiple time frames you can use to pick divergence, okay? Let me go back to the daily. And let me know if you have questions on divergence. I can answer too. But so here's a daily divergence, okay? And again, I want to show you a couple of these because when you're getting multiple divergences back here on Tesla, what it's saying is like right here, when you have the arrow and it painted, so the next day, it's saying that you had a new recent high back here on Tesla, okay? But you did not have you didn't have a new RSI high, okay? But when you keep getting it painted like this, it's just telling you that we're getting close to a top. Okay, we don't know if it's going to be when it's going to be. Okay, so like in this case, if you wanted to take this one, what you want to do is wait, right? You want to wait for a Laguerre in this case because it's in the up in the red. You want to wait for a trigger, and we actually didn't get that unless you took the Hackenacci red right here. But where this can help you is taking profits potentially. Maybe like, well, we're getting divergence. Maybe I should take the rest of my profits. Okay. But then just recently, again, we had a new high, right? And divergence. And then the Laguerre triggered right here after earnings. Okay, that was a potential good setup as well. This is a daily chart. Okay, so just wanted to show you some examples. Let me do a futures as well. So let me do like sugar, if I can type right. And let me go to the 1 minute. And we'll see if we find any divergence on that 1 minute time frame. Again, you can use whatever time frame you use. Okay. Okay, so this is a 1 minute chart. You can see here we had divergence. Okay, so when would I enter if I was going to take that? You see how the Laguerre, where it says short, there's a combo short right here is your opportunity. Remember, for a 1 minute chart, maybe your goal is, 4, 3, 4, 5 ticks, right? I mean, this made a little bit bigger move, but I'm just saying you got to know your time frame to know your profit targets, folks, right? Okay, but you can go back and you can look at your divergence there. Again, very, very powerful divergence. So let's grab something like a 5 minute chart. And sure, we can look at Amazon. Those of you that do a little day trading even on Amazon, let's see, you're looking for 5 minute divergence. Let's see what we have. So now we have the divergence on the bottom, right? Which means we have price going higher, right? When the line's below price, we get the arrow up. This is what we're looking for, okay? Again, I don't go in the next bar. My entry would have been right here. Green Hackenacci, green Laguerre, perfect opportunity here, okay? Off a 5 minute chart, okay? Off a 5 minute chart. Let's look at like gold. Gold's been moving pretty nicely lately, okay? So here's this massive move down on a 5 minute chart, right? And then look, potential divergence, and then it paints right here. So when would you enter? A couple bars later, you get the Laguerre, there's your entry, right? So it can definitely pick tops and bottoms, okay? Or if you were in this trade short, maybe that's the time to exit the trade, okay? So you can use divergence in many ways. And again, feel free to, to go into YouTube and look for divergence ideas. But how I use it is exactly this. I look at it to get into a trade. I look at it to exit a trade, okay? And it's extremely powerful. So what I never liked about divergence is trying to figure it out myself. So I had a program, okay? I had a program, and I will be offering this to you if you want it after we're done here today, okay? All right, so any questions on divergence before I get to your picks you want me to look at? Yeah, so absolutely. So right now, while we're in here in the chat, I'll put in that if you want the divergence, I put the link in there for you. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I'll repeat the definition of divergence. So divergence is when, the way I have it programmed, when you have a new recent high in price, okay? And let me show you something. So when I go into divergence here, okay, I have it set at overbought is 70, and I go back 14 periods, oversold is 30. That is one thing you can do. You can adjust this and say, I want divergence with 20 periods, which would be 20 days if it was a daily, or 20 bars if it's off a 5 minute. And you can change this to 80-20 or 90-10 or 60-40. Okay, that's all modifiable. Okay. So, but what divergence is when you have a new high or a new low in price without a new high or a new low in that oscillator. Okay. Very, very simple, but extremely powerful. extremely powerful. Okay, let me take a look at NEM. You bet. Okay, so here's an example where, again, a couple things I like about Newmont is 56 tends to be holding. Earnings is over now, so we're clear from earnings, right? But again, look at this white dotted line, which is what price should have been doing since December 7th. It should have been heading higher, okay? Price here, actual price has been heading lower, so it hasn't been following its seasonal pattern. So what I typically do, if I was going to take a long trigger as we get into March here, okay, I would go in much smaller size than my normal size, okay? Because the risk is it's not acting normal. Seasonality works the best in normal circumstances, so I would hold off or much smaller size, okay? Disney's crazy, right? I mean, come on. People can't even go to the parks hardly. So look at this. So interesting, right? So earnings is over, and now it hit new highs. So if I'm looking to invest in Disney, okay, I'm waiting for that pullback again, right? I'm never going in at highs. Okay. We also have divergence potentially. Reason I say, you see how it says potential bearish divergence up here? Okay, this is a great example to show you. The reason why it says potential, until today's bar closes, this is a daily bar, until it closes and the new bar opens, meeting that criteria, okay, that this could disappear still, okay? It could. So once this paints for good and the next bar opens, then it'll stay there forever, and this will go away saying potential, okay? So I'm glad we got to see this so you can see how that indicator works. So again, this might be close to taking profits, but you still have nice green Hackenacci, okay, and it's been in this nice uptrend. So just be careful. You may get a pullback here at some point, like we did with this divergence, okay, with this divergence. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Did we look at CAG yet? I actually don't remember. All right, so from a seasonal perspective, it's coming higher here very soon, okay? We had a trigger here, okay? Granted, it is in a downtrend, and we got ADX is red. So I would wait for the next trigger. I want to see this break out of this congestion, okay? But if you take it or are going to take it, smaller size, okay? Microsoft, sure. Okay. So we had divergence here, it painted, so that next bar, we had a new high then, okay, as well. And now you have the move down. So what am I looking for? Well, this is easy. If I want to go long Microsoft, I'm just going to wait for this gear to come back up and get a green dot. So easy plan of action, right? Easy plan of action. We know seasonally we like Microsoft long, right? Big picture. Left to right, the green's going higher. The lighter purple is 5-year, the darker green is 10-year forecast, okay? Excellent example on Microsoft. AIG, let's take a look. Okay, so yeah, so we're getting potential divergence on AIG. You're absolutely right, okay? And we have supposedly a seasonal short coming, right? So what you could look for is when this paints, okay, and the potential goes away and it actually closes with that, and the Laguerre triggers and you get a red dot, you could look for that retracement. Remember the risk, right? You're going against this massive uptrend. So if you're in this trade, maybe you're getting close to taking profits, okay? But that's how that divergence can work, okay? So again, remember, when it's on top of price, it's bearish divergence. And when it's below the price, it's bullish divergence, okay? Okay, what else we got? Anything? me look at some trades that I like coming up from the data mining. Bear with me. I'm just searching through my data mining packet here. So here's one that's coming up. Oh, I'm sorry, I typed it wrong. It's REG. So it started a little bit early here. So I need a pullback. Okay, but typically over the next month, this has gone higher over 85% of the time since it's been in business. Okay, so it started a little bit early. That's why those of you that have the data mining, right? You look at it, you go in 2 weeks early with triggers like this, knowing. And yes, it's the earnings play because typically it goes higher. Everyone plays earnings games. Yeah. Okay. SLS, absolutely. And yeah, when we send out the recording today, I'll resend that divergence link. No problem at all. No problem at all. Okay, so let's see here. So it made this big move up, okay, and now it's consolidating. It made another pretty good move, consolidating. You just want to be careful with this one because it's very unpredictable, right? I mean, we are in an uptrend, so as it gets close to triggering here, you could try to do another option play for another move up. Absolutely, it's got enough volume out there. So if you're looking for a home run opportunity, you get in one contract's going to cost you roughly $300, right? If it goes from 8 to 16, you doubled your money on and that means from an option play, you probably got 100% return. Okay, so that's how you can play the odds game. You can play the odds game. Okay. Oh, SOS. Okay. Well, I liked SLS too. So SOS. All right. So it looks very similar, right? What's going on with these? But same thing. So if you're looking at these type of moves up, could definitely retest these highs at some point. Once you get that move. At this point, you gotta wait for the rules though, right? Let's see, CHWY. Okay, so no seasonal data, so relatively new. Chewy.com. In fact, just knowing how much we buy from that, I should probably buy more of this stock. But it's in an uptrend. So when you get a retracement, if you just want to buy it, you're just waiting for that next green Hackenacci, right? Next green Hackenacci. I love how price came down to the 20 period here. That could be a good entry for you all. Okay. All right, folks. Well, it looks like I've answered your questions. Next week, we're going to talk more about, by the way, AMC here. Is it getting ready to make another move, folks? Look at AMC. Be careful with it. Just like game. Getting a combo long here. Is it going to make another run? Is it going to make another run? Nobody knows, right? It's crazy how expensive GameStop is, though. If you went out for an April expiration at, it's costing you, good money. So be very, very, very careful on something like that. All right, so what we're going to do next week, folks, we're going to focus on, thanks, Alan. We're going to focus on, so let me bring up something that's got seasonality, like gold, okay? I'm going to focus in a little bit about the seasonal indicator, talk more again about this very, very important lag line, this white line. Again, look at gold. Price has been heading down, but gold should have been heading higher, right? And again, the theory is a lot of people are putting money in Bitcoin right now. But regardless, it's not acting normal. So if you want to do long plays on something that hasn't been acting normal, there's more risk. Where this can really help you is at least allow you to understand that, hey, there's more risk right now. It's not acting like it's been acting over the last 5 or 10 years or 15 or 20, whatever you customize it at, okay? So we'll focus on that. What do I think the markets are going to do between next time and we talk? Flip a coin. Flip a coin. Look at that. We're just continuing higher now after this nice pullback to almost the 20th. But I still think it's 50-50 right now, Yeah, I know, Jeff, it's crazy, isn't it? It's 50-50 right now. So be careful. And, we could come close to a new high and then have a bigger rollover, or it could just continue busting through as, look at this nice trend. I don't know. We're getting so many conflicting information right now. I'm really not sure what it's going to look like between now and next Wednesday. So my forecast is it's going to be right where it's at today, folks. All right, well, have a great weekend. Hopefully you're enjoying some nice weather now. Again, it's beautiful here in North Carolina. And we'll see you all next week, folks. Take care now.